record first. All right. So Courtney, thanks so much for joining us and presenting to the Houston Marketo user group. Courtney, I'm sure you have an introduction slide, but she's a two-time Marketo champion. She has done webinars for Marketo and has a lot to talk about on this topic. So I'm just going to hand it off to you and I'll go on mute as you present. And then for the attendees, as soon as Courtney's done and gets to the Q&A portion, we will stop the recording so then we can have an open chat and discussion for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amanda. I'm really excited to be with you guys today to present Beyond the Basics Marketo reporting. I was actually just telling Amanda the last time I did a live webinar like this for Marketo, the fire alarm in my building went off. So I'm praying we have no weird things like that happen today. But I'm very excited to be here. As I just said, I'm Courtney Tobe. I'm the Senior Manager of Marketing Operations at Exchange. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a 2-time Marketo Engage champion, and I've used Marketo Engage at 4 different organizations. So I've really seen the unique ways the platform can be customized. And I have 7 years of platform knowledge under my belt. And this year, I actually had the privilege of helping write the new Marketo Certified Expert exam that Amanda was talking about. I'll say we definitely did make it a little bit harder. So if any of y'all have taken it already, sorry about that. I'm happy to help, happy to give any study tips or anything along those lines. I'm also the proud dog mom of Julep, who is another loyal Adobe Marketo Engage ambassador. She's actually planning on making her run for the 2022 Marketo Engage Champion class later this year. To be honest, I really just think she's a big fan of the swag. So not sure how good her chances actually will be. But today we will be focusing on how you can leverage the power of Marketo to track and report on ROI, measure the volume and speed of leads moving through the stages of your funnel, and identify which of your channels and Marketo programs are highest performing. We will also be leaving a few minutes for Q&A at the end. So one common problem I've seen throughout my time working in the marketing automation space is that many companies will invest in a robust marketing automation platform like Marketo, but they really struggle to take advantage of their full investment. Instead, they end up treating Marketo like a glorified email service provider when it can really do so much more. While standard KPIs such as email opens and clicks and form downloads are important to track, they only really begin to tell the story. In today's revenue-focused marketing landscape, and as many of us face budget cuts and are continuing to have to pivot our strategies as a result of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, it's more important than ever for marketers to be able to answer the questions such as which programs have the highest return on investment, where can we cut back on spend and potentially reallocate dollars, and how can we make better use of our budget. And Marketo really gives you the power to report on that information. You just have to know where to look for it. My goal of today's presentation is to empower you with reports that help leverage your full Marketo investment. So after today's 45-minute webinar, you should be able to answer which programs have the highest ROI, where are the people in your marketing database falling in your funnel, and where you can cut back on spend, reallocate those dollars, and make better use of your budget. And trust me, once you have these reports nailed down, your marketing leadership team is going to love you. So let's start with question number 1. Which programs have the highest return on investment? In order to begin answering that question, you must first start associating costs to your campaigns. And there are 2 types of costs, variable costs and fixed costs. A variable cost is an expense that rises or falls in direct proportion to production volume. So for marketers, a variable cost could be printing and mailing costs, a direct mail campaign, cost of speakers for webinars, your online advertising budget for a LinkedIn campaign. There are lots of different examples of variable costs, but those are just a few. And then a fixed cost does not vary with the volume of production. It remains the same even if no goods or services are produced, and therefore cannot be avoided. So examples of fixed costs include headcount and capital resources. Due to the nature of fixed costs, they can often be really hard to calculate and can add a layer of complexity in determining the ROI of your campaign. So I really typically recommend only using variable costs in your period costing in Marketo. The goal of cost reporting is to enable you to draw comparisons between your marketing campaigns and programs. And you can only do this accurately if you consistently exclude fixed costs and capture variable costs only. Marketo makes it extremely easy for you to track the associated variable costs of your campaigns through their period cost functionality. So you can access this feature in the Setup tab of your Marketo programs, which you're seeing in the screenshot on the slide. If your program has variable costs associated with it, such as a trade show, sponsorship fees, agency costs, or other expenses, these should be added as period costs with the appropriate month of these costs incurred attached. So if your program has no costs associated to it and you still want to measure program ROI, when you build out that program, you can just add $1 or a period cost of $0. And this will ensure that the program's new names and successes are always available in your monthly and quarterly reports. Whether you choose $0 or $1 only impacts what you see in the cost-related columns in reporting. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But just so you know, like if you select $0, you put that in your period cost, you'll just see dashes or an NA message appear in that report. And if you select $1, you will just see very large, essentially meaningless numbers or $0 instead. But it will still allow you to just attribute the new members of the program that are associated to that program. So I definitely recommend using that technique. In order for you to be able to use Marketo reporting to track program ROI and revenue impact, you must use period costs in your program setup. Also, if you don't know the cost of your campaigns at the time while you're building out your program, it's not a problem at all. You can always go back into your program at a later date and time and update it to be the actual amount, or you can always just put in an estimate. If the campaign has variable costs that last longer than 1 month, you can simply drag over additional period costs and attribute the other months where costs will be incurred to that program in the Program Setup tab. It's important to note that months with no defined period costs will roll backwards to the last month that was defined. If there is no period cost, the month will be rolled forward to the next one that has been defined. So for example, if the only period cost you included in this program was for June, then people added to this program before or after June will only count towards June, with period costs attributed to June, July, and August, like in this example on the slide. People added only in the months after August will count towards August. If you want to measure ROI for ongoing program costs with no cost, such as a web form on your website or a nurture program that's going to run for the entire year, you can just add 12 period costs of $0 or $1, beginning with January when you build out that program. And this will ensure that the program's new names and successes are always available in your monthly and quarterly reports. So now that you've started using period costs in your Marketo programs, you can start to view this data in your reporting. Marketo's Program Performance Report allows you to easily track and measure the ROI of your programs. You can access this report in the Analytics section, or you can also build it locally in the Marketing Activities section directly within your Marketo program. This report allows you to filter by channel and track new names acquired by your programs. It allows you to track the success of your program, so the number of people in your programs who have reached your indicated success step, and the total cost of your program, cost per new name and cost per success. So if your Marketo instance looks anything like ours does at AvidXchange, seeing all of your Marketo programs in one report can be a bit overwhelming. So luckily for us, the Program Performance Report has some robust filtering options. You can filter this report by channel type, which allows you to bring in your program statuses. So in this example, we're filtering it out by webinars. And when you bring in the program statuses, you'll be able to see the number of people in that program broken down by who registered, who attended, who were no-shows, etc. You can also filter it out by any tags that you have set up. So for example, we go to market by vertical. So I have a tag set up in the admin section of Marketo to pull in our verticals. And when I bring that filter into this report, I can break it down to see all of the webinar programs and the performance that we have for those programs by our real estate vertical, by our construction vertical. It's a great way to really just dig even deeper into breaking out your reporting. You can also filter by period cost. So if you only want to view period costs incurred during a certain time frame, and this is important to note because one thing that is sort of interesting about this report is that you can't actually filter it by date. It only allows you to have an all-time view. So that's where your period cost filtering can really come in handy because you can drag that over and say, for example, you only want to see new members added to a program in Q1, you would just be able to pull in the period costs for that quarter and filter it that way. So monitoring program ROI is crucial to help you analyze the overall performance of your program. So for example, if you see a trend of a high cost program that's great at generating net new leads, such as a trade show or a webinar, but those leads don't really turn into MQLs or opportunities, you may need to take a step back and determine if it's worth to continue that program. When you could also just funnel those dollars into programs that do consistently generate net new leads and return results. So now that we know how to measure program ROI, let's focus on tracking the leads in your marketing database and how they progress through your funnel. This is a great question to be able to speak to in today's revenue-driven world because it allows you to create more targeted campaigns to reach your prospects where they actually are in the buyer journey. And personalization is huge right now, definitely trending, and the more personalized you can get in your messaging and where you're hitting your prospects throughout their buyer journey, the more successful you will be. It will also help you identify if there are any bottlenecks in your funnel that you might not be aware of. So let's dig into the lead lifecycle model. How do you start identifying where the leads in your Marketo database fall in your funnel? So first, you need to build out a lead lifecycle model for your company. Lifecycle, which is also referred to as a revenue model or a customer journey, refers to how your company manages the life of a lead from the moment it appears in Marketo all the way through to opportunity close. It defines where a record can live, how a person moves through the life cycle, and the engagement with each person that your company has at each stage of the journey. So why is it valuable to build out a lead life cycle model? It helps you have a better understanding of where the people in your database fall in your funnel, which enables you to run more effective and targeted marketing programs to get them to progress in your buyer journey. It helps you prevent leads from falling out of the funnel or being neglected, so you can see exactly where everyone lives and at each stages and ensure that you're marketing to everyone in every single stage. And it also allows you to report on conversion rates from stage to stage to identify bottlenecks. Another reason why building a lifecycle model is an important exercise is it also really encourages that sales and marketing alignment. I know this is something that most marketing teams struggle with. Including your sales team proactively in this exercise will ensure you guys are on the same page from the get-go. You can agree on the definitions of what an MQL is, what the service level agreement should be for MQL and opportunity follow-up, and make sure you document that as you're building out the process, so there really is no more finger pointing. You have clear data and definitions to back things up. So on this slide, you'll see an example of the success path of our specific lead lifecycle model at AvidXchange. And a success path is basically if a lead were to enter your funnel and progress exactly how you would like it to, which we all know it's not that easy, unfortunately, but that is the path that you would want it to take. So ideally, if someone came right through our funnel, we would want them to go from being a known lead, which is essentially just their email address, all the way through to closed one. So unfortunately, it doesn't always work like that. So you have to account for detours, which I'll walk you through on this slide. So as you're working with your sales organization to define the different stages of your lead life cycle, you'll also want to build out a process flow that demonstrates how the leads flow through the model and take all of these detours that I was just sort of referring to into account. So here you can see the success path that I was referring to on the last slide, but now you'll also see the detours. So if someone doesn't turn directly from a known lead to a lead, they could directly raise their hand and turn into an MQL. We now have a path to account for that if they don't fall in directly with the success path indicated on the green line. So if you purchase Marketo's revenue cycle modeler feature, you can actually build out this specific process flow directly within your Marketo instance. Once implemented, it's a really powerful tool that enables you to visualize exactly how many leads live in each stage of your funnel and how quickly they're moving through the stages. And I'll show you a report that really does a great job of showing and visualizing this in a few slides. But here you can see an example of our overall revenue cycle model. I already sort of explained what the detours look like. And this is just one of my favorite Marketo features because I found it to be super helpful to be able to have this visualization to show my leadership team how our leads are supposed to be moving through our funnel, how there are these detour steps, what it means when a lead is in each stage of this funnel. And even if you don't have revenue cycle modeler in your instance, that's okay. There's still some workarounds that will allow you to build out at least lead lifecycle stages so you can have some level of this visualization in Marketo. So after you define the process flow of your revenue lifecycle model or lead lifecycle model, you will need to actually build the logic out within Marketo. So first, you will need to create a string field that is called lifecycle status or lifecycle stage in the admin section of your instance. You will then use the Smart campaign to push people into the correct lifecycle status based on the criteria that you defined for each stage. So for example, at AvidXchange, someone transitions from the known stage to lead stage when they achieve a behavior score between 1 and 100. So basically, they have to take any sort of action and engage with one of our marketing tactics. We trigger off of them reaching that behavior score. And then in the flow of the Smart campaign, we use the change data value flow step to change the lifecycle status to a lead. If you purchase Revenue Cycle Modeler, you will also want to use the change revenue stage flow step in your Smart campaign to ensure the correct stage gets updated in your RCM model as well. So in this example, you will see we have separate folders set up for our success path, a separate folder for the detours, one for adjustments. So for example, if you want to run a batch campaign that goes every single night to ensure leads are pushed into the correct stages, sort of as a backup plan, that's what you would see as that adjustments folder. And then we also have a folder for historical migration. So most likely you already have people in your Marketo database when you launch your new lead lifecycle model. So you will need to run historical batch campaigns to push those people into the correct stages based off of the criteria you defined of where they would fall in your model. If you have purchased RCM, you will actually need to build out the model within the analytics section. It is a pretty straightforward tool that's just a drag and drop builder. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to dig into all the details of how that works today, but Marketo has some great documentation on it that I actually include at the end of this presentation. And I'm also happy to continue talking about it offline after this presentation too. So if you're a little unsure about building out your lead lifecycle model from scratch, Marketo has a basic template from their program library that you can port directly into your instance and at least use it as a starting point. As I mentioned, the template is pretty basic, but it provides you with enough information to get started and then further iterate on it to personalize it directly to your organization's lifecycle model. So after you've done the heavy lifting and build out your lead lifecycle in your operational program in Marketo, you can start measuring where your people in your database fall in your funnel. If you've purchased Revenue Cycle Modeler, you can leverage the People by Revenue Stage report in your Marketo Analytics section. This report makes it extremely easy to see how many people in your database fall into each revenue stage of your lifecycle model. The report includes any stage from the specified model as long as there is a person balance for the given date range of the report. So I'm going to walk you through the filtering options on this report on the next slide, but wanted to call out a quick hack for you if you don't have RCM. So you can actually leverage Marketo's segmentation capabilities to build out a lead lifecycle status segmentation. And each stage would end up being its own segment. you would just use the lead lifecycle status or lead lifecycle stage field that you built earlier to build out your smart list. So once you've built and approved the segment, you'll be able to view the counts of the people in each stage in real time, similarly to how you can in the people by revenue stage report. And we've actually done this at my current company, and it's been super helpful for a couple of reasons. So my email marketing manager actually uses the segmentation to review it with our campaign managers at least once a week so that they can see broken out by vertical how many people they have in their database specifically that are lead status, MQLs, opportunities, and really help them think about how they want to message to those people differently. And then because we have it built into a segment, we can actually use dynamic content to personalize the messaging in just one email for those people who are in the known stage versus the MQL versus opportunity stage, rather than having to build out multiple different emails to have that customization. So it's really been a great hack. And we have the revenue cycle modeler and have built out that segmentation. So lots of different options here. One key difference though between the segmentation approach that I just shared and the people by revenue stage report are the filtering options. So the segmentation will just strictly give you counts, so how many people are in each stage. But the people by revenue stage report allows you to filter by date range and add in any additional smart list criteria that you want. So say, for example, if you want to see where the leads are falling in your funnel by vertical, you can pull over that filter and further drill down into the report. This report also enables you to pull in opportunity data by revenue stage, and you can group people by fields other than revenue stage. So say, for example, if you're using lead lifecycle status as a field, you can switch up this report to show people by lead lifecycle status instead of revenue stage. Doing so will allow you to determine if there are any discrepancies between people who are in your lead lifecycle status field that you created and the actual revenue cycle model that you built in the analytics section. So it's nice to check both because in theory, they should match up. Another cool functionality of this report is it enables you to drill down to see specific field breakdown by revenue stage. So this is an extremely powerful report. It'd be great for you to play around with to fully grasp all of its capabilities, because it's pretty cool exactly what you can continue to drill down into and the insights that you can get. Once you've been able to visualize the people in your database by revenue stage, the next step is to visualize funnel velocity so you can see how long the people are staying in each stage of your buyer journey. So for those of you who have Revenue Cycle Modeler, the Success Path Analyzer is a great tool to explore the specific details that reflect both flow, so the amount of people in each stage, and velocity, the speed in terms of how people are progressing through each stage. You can click Inflow to graph how many people entered the stage during the selected time frame, and you can click Outflow to graph how many people exited the stage. You can also see the average time of how long people are spending in each stage before moving on, and you can visualize this data by month, week, or day. You can also click on conversion percentage to graph the conversion rate from this stage to the next stage. So very helpful insights, really great to speak to your leadership team if they're wanting to understand how quickly people are progressing through your journey and where there might be bottlenecks that you need to address. You can also continue to further filter down this report so that you can drill down to compare data to a different time frame of equal length. So say, for example, you want to see how people are flowing through your funnel Q1 of last year compared to Q1 of this year. You can simply click on Chart Actions, select Compare Period, and the chart will update with overlapping data for the compare period in green. For stages with an SLA, such as when your sales team is expected to follow up with the MQL, you can click on Chart Actions to filter by Show SLAs Due, and the chart will update to reflect how many SLAs were due on each node in orange. You can also select Chart Actions to filter by Show SLA Past Due to show all people who expired SLA targets who are still in the SLA stage at the end of the specified time period. The chart will update to reflect how many SLAs were overdue on each node in orange. So unfortunately, there's not really a great alternative to this out of the box in Marketo if you do not have Revenue Cycle Modeler, but it might be something where you could export the lead lifecycle data out of Marketo and partner with your analytics team to build out a similar view in Excel or whatever other reporting platform that you use. So the people by revenue stage and success path analyzer reports are really great at just helping you identify roadblocks as to why people are not moving through your revenue model. For example, if you notice that there are several SLAs past due at the MQL stage in your success path analyzer report, you might want to have a conversation with your sales team just to figure out why they're not hitting that SLA, find out what's going on. Another approach to help you identify roadblocks, say, for example, you notice in your success path analyzer report that people just are not progressing from the lead to MQL stage as quickly as you would like for them to. You can actually pull a smart list of leads who have been sitting in the lead stage for an extended time period and start to do some troubleshooting. Try to identify if there are any patterns with these leads, look into what might be going on and see if there's anything you can change and test, maybe do an A/B test to see if that change helps move people through the different stages faster. Your detective work will help you uncover what might be causing the bottlenecks so you can pivot and adjust and hopefully move leads through their funnel more efficiently. So now we know how to report on program ROI. We built the foundation for tracking where your leads fall in your funnel and how quickly they're progressing through it. Now it's time for us to cover the third and final question for today, which is where can we cut back on spend and potentially reallocate dollars to make better use of my budget? Right now is a challenging time for marketers. I said at the beginning, a lot of us are facing budget cuts, having to continue to shift our priorities. Trade shows are sort of still hit or miss. Being able to speak to these insights will help you run smarter and more effective marketing programs and help you truly make data-based decisions as you're reallocating your budget. It will also help you maybe win some brownie points with your marketing and sales leadership teams. So we've already covered the importance of period costing, but if you want to be able to associate your programs and their success directly to revenue, you have to first tie your marketing programs to revenue. And how do you do that? It starts with the person. Revenue is mostly tracked within a CRM platform, and most of those systems are object-based. So there's a lead object, contact object, account object, opportunity object. I know we're all very familiar with them, but they're often separate entities that aren't always connected or tied together. And marketing automation is unique in the sense that it really centers around the person. A person is who engages with your content. A person opens an email, not an account or an opportunity. So in order for you to be able to tie opportunity revenue metrics into Marketo, you must associate people in your marketing database to the revenue, which is in most cases stored at the opportunity. This association step typically happens in your CRM, and in most cases, it's at the opportunity. Sorry, I just realized I said that. At AvidXchange, we use Salesforce. So this association happens when we add people as contact roles on the opportunity. So say, for example, I downloaded an ebook from a company that I was evaluating, and later down the road, I raised my hand and turned into an opportunity. If my name is not associated as a contact role on that opportunity, then none of these marketing touch points that got me to become engaged will actually be attributed to the generation of the opportunity. So now that you understand the importance of associating your people as contact roles on the opportunity, the next step you need to take is associating your people to the correct marketing program or activity so that you can gauge program success. So say, for example, you acquire a net new lead through an ebook download. That lead then engages with an email send, and then later on in their journey engages with the direct mail piece that results in them finally raising their hand and turning into an opportunity. You will want to be able to track all of those touch points or marketing programs that contributed to that lead becoming an opportunity throughout your buyer journey. So while you can track marketing program members directly within Marketo, you will also want to sync this information over to your CRM where your opportunity and revenue data is stored. Once again, we use Salesforce. So we leverage Salesforce's campaign object and associate the people as campaign members. The native sync from Marketo programs to Salesforce campaigns is pretty seamless. You can even create a Salesforce campaign directly from your Marketo program. And I will say Microsoft Dynamics did not previously allow you to automatically sync Marketo program members to Dynamics campaigns, but with one of their most recent updates, that functionality now does exist as well. So very exciting to see that finally in place. So remember on the last slide how I was talking about the importance of being able to track all marketing touch points that a lead takes through their buyer journey? This is so you can leverage a marketing attribution model to assess the value or ROI of the marketing channels and programs that you're running. Marketo enables you to report on two common attribution models. There's first touch and multi-touch. It's important to view both attribution models because they can tell you which programs are most effective at generating net new leads versus which programs are more effective at moving people through your funnel. A first touch attribution model is the most commonly used, mostly due to the fact that it is easy to track and implement. It tells us which programs are best at acquiring new leads. How is this useful? Let's say that we notice our marketing funnel and realize it's bottom heavy. We have all of these leads that have progressed into MQLs and opportunities, but no net new leads being added to our database. If we take a look at which programs have the highest first touch model revenue, we can assume that if we run more of these programs, we'll be able to get more leads into the top of the funnel. A multi-touch attribution model splits your revenue credit evenly among each touch point. This view tells us which programs are best at pushing leads through the life cycle and creating opportunities. This model can help us understand which touch point happens most frequently, regardless of position along the customer journey. So take this scenario we talked about for the first touch attribution model and turn it on its head. What if we have way too many leads at the beginning of the journey and we need them to further engage down the funnel? Taking a look at the revenue historically generated within the context of a multi-touch attribution model can help us fix this. So now you've tied your people to revenue and the correct programs and have an understanding of attribution models. You need to make sure your Marketo programs are fully set up before you can start visualizing this ROI data in your Marketo instance. So how do you make sure your Marketo programs are fully set up? As I've stressed earlier in this presentation, I know I've said it a few times, but that's just how important it is. You must be using period costs for this reporting to be effective. You also must be using program statuses in your Marketo programs and showing progression steps. So for example, for a webinar program, make sure you're updating your program status as members move from invited to registered, all the way to attended and attended on demand. And lastly, program success must be defined. So in Marketo, program success is a program status that indicates the desired goal of the overall program. So continuing with the webinar example, a program success would be someone who registered or attended because they actually engaged with the tactic, they signed up and they asked for more information and they actually attended the presentation. Once your Marketo programs are fully set up, you can start to visualize your program performance using the Program Analyzer report in the Analytics section. This report is a great tool because it helps you visualize which programs and channels are performing the best by comparing every cost and return in detail by program or channel. The metrics in this report allow you to toggle between first touch and multi-touch attribution calculations. It's important to note that this report type is only available if you purchase Revenue Cycle Modeler. If you haven't purchased RCM, you can export the data from the program performance report that I referenced earlier on in the presentation and partner with your analytics team to try and create a similar view in Excel or your own reporting tool. As I mentioned on the last slide, you can use the Program Analyzer to drill down by channel and program effectiveness. This example is showing it broken down by channel. You can use the Program Analyzer to compare channel costs, member acquisition, pipeline revenue, and more to identify your most and least effective channels. As you can see in the screenshot, you can filter both the X and Y axis by things like program members, new names, cost per member, cost per success, etc. But one way that I find this report to be very effective is to use it to better understand which channels are contributing to first touch conversions versus multi-touch conversions. For example, in this screenshot, the Y-axis is set to first touch pipeline created, and the X-axis is set to program cost. With those data points set, we can see that the trade show channel is most effective at generating first touch pipeline, but it's also the most expensive channel. When we take this same chart but change the y-axis to reflect multi-touch pipeline created instead of first touch, we can see that the webinar channel is most effective in contributing to multi-touch pipeline, and it is also less expensive than trade shows and online advertising. So as I've mentioned before, it's so important to view your channels and programs from both a first touch and multi-touch attribution model because they truly do tell different stories. In the first example, trade shows are great at generating net new leads, but they result in expensive cost of acquisition, whereas webinars are a great tool to move people through your funnel and aren't as expensive to convert. So now let's change the program analyzer report to focus on program performance. In this view, you can explore individual program performance by channel and actually compare channels. This example in particular is showing trade show program effectiveness at generating net new names. That's what you're seeing on the y-axis relative to program costs, which is what you're looking at on the x-axis. We have the bubble size set to show program members, meaning the larger the bubble, the more members the program has. And the color is set to demonstrate first touch revenue to investment. With these filters set, we can see that the Origami Expo was great at generating net new names, but the red color is showing us that it wasn't as effective at generating revenue. By changing the bubble size filter to instead reflect first touch revenue 1 instead of program members, we see very quickly that while the Origami Expo acquired a lot of net new names, it results in comparatively little revenue. Also, we see that the PaperFest 12 program is getting fewer names, but higher quality names as it influences more revenue 1, and that's what you're seeing the bigger bubble for. We see that the PaperFest 12 program not only influences more revenue, but despite its relatively high program costs, which is what we're seeing on the far right side, it has the best return to investment because it has the greenest bubble of all the programs in the trade show channel. We've already sort of walked through this a little bit on the previous slide, but this report has a ton of awesome filtering options as well. So you can filter the x-axis, y-axis, bubble size, and color by different criteria. You can fully analyze your program or channel performance by the criteria that is important for your unique organization's performance metrics. You can also drill down into individual channels or programs to view specific performance metrics. So one key takeaway from the Program Analyzer report is how important it is to visualize both program and channel effectiveness by different attribution models and different program success metrics. Some programs or channels will be more effective at generating net new leads, while others are better at closing new business. And measuring performance by these different attribution models will really help you tell that story. These reports are a great way to sort of get your toes wet in reporting on first touch and multi-touch attribution. If you're looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, Visible is a great tool that allows you to build out all kinds of different attribution models and really tell a more robust story. But this is a great place to start if you're just sort of getting your feet wet in that space. So now that you've gone beyond the basics of Marketo reporting, how can you continue to expand your learning? Marketo has several fabulous product docs that go into great detail of how you can set up these reports and leverage their insights. I've linked a few here that you could definitely start to check out. And the Marketo community is another great channel to continue your learning. There are several awesome threads on there that will help answer any questions or issues you might be experiencing. And you can also ask new questions that will be answered by other Marketo users. And lastly, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm a self-proclaimed Marketo nerd who loves talking about all things Marketo and connecting with other Marketo users. I'm happy to continue the conversation well after this webinar. And I see a few other Marketo champions on here too now. Hi, Enrico. I'm sure he and Amanda will also be happy to further answer any questions that you might have as well. So I hope you found today's content informative and feel inspired to start measuring ROI, tracking funnel velocity, and evaluating channel and program effectiveness at your organization. And with that, let's open it up for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm going to stop the recording so we can have an open chat.